Hello, and welcome back to this week's episode of the TF Cast. I am your host, Willis Stout.
Hey, Grum here. It is September 14th, 2022, here in the Solarium.
And I'm your host, Jacob Bases. Today with us, we have a guest that we've been trying to get since 2019. 2019. Or that's when the conversation started. Chris K is with us. We recorded some music, and he's here to talk about what's been going on with his music since then and what's coming up. So, Chris, introduce yourself to the audience and let us know what's going on.
Yeah, my name is Chris K. I'm a musician, songwriter. I dabble in arts. Like to say it's a hard process to call me an artist, but I like to say I'm an artist now.
I'd say claim it. Just go for it. We got artist Chris K.
Yes.
But so far as the music, like when we I don't even remember what the original catalyst for our conversation about bringing you on the cast was. I think it was maybe your album you were about to release or some upcoming performances that were just like right before COVID. But you know, what has it been like?
So I remember the day, it was December 19th of 2019. I had my album release party at the What's Up Lounge. And the album was called Chris K. Buried Away. And then, as you all know, right after that, COVID shut everything down. So just changed everything and really shut down my creative process. And I was like really just like thriving. I was writing so much music. And then when all of a sudden you can't perform, you can't go out, you can't do anything. A lot of people wrote a lot of music during the pandemic. I did not. I went the opposite way.
Mm-hmm. Well, that was your first album, right?
It was, yeah.
Okay, so I mean that's like basically a fresh perspective on the show. Someone who like just made their first large creative contribution and then like had to like see it survive COVID. Because I mean, since then, I think it was I tried to bring this back up around like 2021 sometime. I got back into contact with you, and you were playing shows all around, and like I felt like you were really putting in the work. So, like, were you like rehashing that old album, or did you move past it?
So I'm definitely It's funny because the album's called Buried Away, and it kind of did get buried away with COVID, and it is out on SoundCloud still. If you do enough digging, you guys can find it. But I'm gonna completely remake it. I just feel like going back and reflecting 3 years ago, I've progressed so much more, and there's a lot of things I don't like about it. So I'm kind of glad that happened at the same time because it gave me a fresh perspective on it, and now I get to go with what I want it to sound like more and give it. It's like a lot of people will remaster an album or make changes or rewrite their songs, especially live, and like it all was kind of my process because of COVID. So they're definitely all being remastered, sung. That's a fun thing. I'm adding some percussions right now. I just bought some antique suitcases that I'm turning into drums for bass pedals because I always sit when I perform. So
Cool.
Definitely going to make it more of an ambiance and an attraction and a performance, I should say.
So apart from probably getting a little bit more experience, what kind of changes are you intending to make to the, what have you learned, or just elaborate a little bit more on some of the process of redoing some of this stuff?
Well, honestly, it's all about emotion for me. My music, I was in a very, very dark, heavy place when I was writing all that music. And going back and singing it, I can reflect and stuff, but I progressed a lot as a person, and I'm not in that dark place so much anymore. So it's hard to me to go back to that. So I want to remaster it with the place of mind I'm in right now, which isn't so dark and depressed.
Is it how do you balance the sort of like the art that was, of the time, and then like the desire for doing a new thing in the future? Like, are you writing new songs to like replace stuff, or are you kind of just like shifting the message a little bit on some stuff?
I'm definitely just going to rewrite that whole album, add some choruses, maybe change some refrains, change time counts, and add some instruments maybe. But relatively it's going to stay in its raw form. And then I've been writing a lot of new music that's so going to reflect on that album a lot, but just shows my progression as well.
Oh, cool.
Do you plan to add a backing band of any sort eventually?
That is something I would love to at some point. That's kind of where I was at in my mind when I was thought about redoing it all, because I want to do it now. At first, I just wanted to get it out, and like now I want to do it with the concept of growing and adding more anything. Honestly, it's the creative process of getting more people involved. It adds a lot, and like I think it'll be very beneficial to add a lot of people. So yeah, eventually I do want to find a band. I do want to have people play with me.
Has the tuning of the songs and then like the planning to re-record or maybe active re-recording come from playing them out too? Like, because you have been doing some shows and playing out in the area here. So I guess I wonder if it kind of comes across as like, where you're like learning that at your shows, where you're like, I'd rather this feel a little bit different or something.
Well, yeah, that's definitely part of it. My music's very heavy, and it gets people thinking. I mean, that's the way I wanted it, and I want people to feel their emotions. I want them to be exposed, and at the time when I just don't want so much anger in it, I guess. I don't want to like come off as trying to hurt people or manipulate people. I just want them to open up to themselves.
Maybe then it seems like you're just evolving the way that you tell stories a little bit and finding better ways to like communicate feelings or something.
Precisely. Yeah.
Cool. How have the shows been this, like, I guess as an artist who, like Jacob said, put out this body of work before pre-pandemic and then had to deal with trying to stay active and the struggles of the pandemic, like how has it been as a live performer going through that, and sort of like takeaways where we are now in 2022? And I think things are like happening pretty freely, but all the industry, I guess, like especially entertainment industry, is still sort of decimated from the pandemic. And
it's everybody's playing catch up right now.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it will ever be back to where it was pre-COVID, to be honest with you. Restrictions, people, it just really gave people an awakening of like what they're doing with their lives, and like it's just a general shift in humanity. So I don't think it'll ever go quite back to what it was, but yeah, everyone is playing catch up right now.
Yeah, Onion Bun actually recorded an album with the specific intent of having it so we could go on tour, because we were playing a math rock festival thing at South by Southwest, and so we like rushed it like purposely, and we talk about it all the time how we would have done it completely differently, and then COVID happened, so now it feels like we're basically starting over with our new project we're working on right now. It feels like we basically have to start from square one,
Right.
besides the like local community who obviously knows about us.
And like I feel that especially because I lived on a mountain off grid in 2021, and I was recording a lot of new music on my phones, but a wood chipper did not agree with me one day, so those phones are no longer with me. So then I really when I got back to Minnesota, I really had to start from square one again.
Oh man,
That's awful. I mean, it's
so you dropped your phone in a wood chipper accidentally?
Well, it was more so like it was a big wood chipper, and it was out in California, so we're clearing brush for fire safety and stuff, and it was big trees. It was a big industrial one, and you put anything in there, it can just grip it and whip it, basically.
Yeah.
So it smashed the tree into the side of my pocket and like ripped it out and like almost took my phone with it, but it was completely destroyed.
so it just the byproduct of the wood chipper destroyed your phone.
It didn't go through the wood chipper. I kind of wish I would have just thrown it in for the heck of it at that point.
That would have been almost a better story, if it was broken, I would have thrown it in. I love throwing phones and things.
But at the same time, like I save all my broken phones. I break a lot of phones somehow, so It's in my graveyard somehow, and like if I can get some tech guy to fix it or send it in, we
you
can
get it
go
recovered.
and recover it at some point.
Just
Were there like ideas in there that you don't have access to anymore?
100%. Like I record myself all the time late night, like wake up, especially like if I'm having drinking and stuff. I'll always record myself because I wake up in the morning and I'm like, oh, I really liked what I was playing last night, and I can never quite remember the way I wanted it. And so that's why I always record it, because it's always slightly different when I wake up.
then that works for you. So you like, because I do something similar, but not exactly. So you make a recording and then you review it later. You like listen back and you can kind of play along with yourself and feel it out.
Exactly.
Cool. So then it just evolves.
And even if
it's
it's just terrible, me and my drunk shenanigans, at least I'll remember it the way I wanted it.
Yeah. Yeah, because otherwise you're just like, man, I think I had a good idea, but I don't remember what it was. And it could have been trash, but at least if you recorded some version of it, you know, you can review it and be like, yeah, that was trash. I guess
Yeah, Onion Bun started recording all our practices because some of those riffs are so hard to keep track of. Like we would write something cool and just I would lose it.
Exactly. Like you play it once and all of a sudden it sounds so good and it's gone.
Yep.
Yeah.
I also have a bunch of useless ones where it's like me singing to Bing Bong or something.
Oh, there's if you just scroll, there's hundreds in there.
That's fun.
I wonder, you know, we look back at stuff like they were like, remember when they discovered, or didn't discover, but they were like talking about all of the stuff that was in Prince's vault. Yeah. But you know, like now we have singer-songwriters and bands that like just, I mean, like we don't really need to have like every single thing they ever did recorded.
Yeah.
You don't want to hear Bing Bong's a good boy after I'm done.
Well, I wonder how that, like, it's funny to,
I mean, if I can make money
think
off of
current, but it's interesting to expand that to like future too, like in 300 years. Like what my record will look like, or like the record of my work, because they could probably just match up like all my digital records with like my IRL stuff, and it might not matter in 300 years. Like they wouldn't care about the difference. So it wouldn't be like a...
Well, I imagine that there's going to be like
combine it all.
A whole plunder industry in it, you know, like long enough in the future, like it's just not going to matter. Like we're not going to have any privacy, and there's going to be people looking for like music that was never made public in any way. And it's just sitting somewhere, you know, it's on a server somewhere.
That's interesting.
You know, it's like in someone's voice memo on their phone, backed up to the cloud in cold storage.
That's my niche right there. I'm creating for that.
Amazon's got the bank right now. They give all their money from data storage.
Yeah.
Little do we know, they're just banking all our ideas and music for history.
They probably have computers like scanning that stuff, like big data, just going in on it, and like
they know that after the death of the user, they just own it or something, and that's their long
our account now.
Every time I predict accurately what happens in a movie, I'm just gonna assume that they stole it from from like me complaining and my phone speaker is just on.
There's like this weird thing where like people, I've been watching movies with someone and they've been like bragging how good they are at like predicting what happens, and it's just really funny because like the movie is meant like the cinematographers know what shot will make you think a certain way. And so when people are like, that's the bad guy, I knew it from the beginning, it's like, well, yeah, that's because they did like upward shot to make them brain. Yeah, and they played this one frequency behind you. But yeah, it's always so funny because it's like, well, yeah, that it's called foreshadowing.
It's like the classic getting hit by a bus scene. Like you can usually tell.
Yeah.
And like I have called it like 2 or 3 seconds before it happens before, but I'm never that like proud or something because usually you can tell.
It's go ahead.
I was gonna say it's so trendy now to subvert the expectations, like in a big way. And that is really fun. Like I feel like I've really come in, like, I mean, it's particularly, I mean, to even go back to last episode, like the horror genre, I feel like has really picked up in quality recently here.
It's about time.
Yeah. Well, and now that I like the new stuff, like I go back and I appreciate the old stuff more that I didn't care for when it came out, but now I think it's great too. So I think it's a net benefit for everyone.
So just to get back to what we're talking about, you redo your project and you're releasing it. What do you think you kind of have in the Chris K plan beyond that?
So I'm not going to re-release my first project until my new EP/album. It depends on how long it gets. I'm going to release something this winter for sure, and that's what I'm working on right now, pretty heavily. And
Do you
then
have
I'm
a
going
name
to
for
go
that
back.
project?
I do not. I thought of a really good one when I was pooping this morning, and then I went out to like write it down. By the time I found the pen and paper, it was gone.
Should have yelled it to Tommy.
I guess you always got to record yourself while you're pooping too.
Yeah, keep those journals running.
Yeah, so that's coming out this winter. Do you have any plans for what that release is going to look like or post-release?
No, not right now. I'm really just diving into the music. For some reason, I really fall and winter is, I guess, like Halloween season gets you into this hibernative state, and like people get a little bit more depressed. They lose their vitamin D and their sunlight. They can't go outside, and I don't know. I vibe with that time, but I go outside and snowboard. But I love winter, and like I feel like it's a more appropriate time for me to release my music because of how heavy it is, and like it just will resonate with people better in winter versus a summertime album.
Cool.
Agreed. Yeah, I am always more creative this time of year. Fall's like by far my favorite season, and I always feel more creative and like I want to do stuff.
Exactly.
ESLs for me. But you know, let's talk a little bit about like your influences, both like stage performers, like people who have influenced you as performers, or just like folks, and then the type of experiences that you tend to write about. If you could, I don't know, whichever appeals to you more to talk about right off the bat.
So yeah, I'll just start from base one, I guess. People always ask me favorites, and it's really hard. So especially a favorite musician or band, I kind of have three tops, and that's going to be Cloud Cult, local Minneapolis band, Manchester Orchestra. They're kind of like indie rock alternative, and then Bayside, which is more punk rock alternative. And so I was raised in Colorado. I came up in the heavy metal scenes and very punk rock. And so coming here, and now like my music's kind of like folk punk music. And so Minnesota definitely changed who I influence on, but like I definitely pick up on all those genres still, but I just can't find myself like continuously being in that state of mind of sadness and anger in order to write those kinds of songs, if that makes sense.
Sure.
But definitely at this point, Minnesota people, Cloud Cult, Charlie Parr, I really love Pert Near Sandstone, Dead Larry, I love them. And then Useful Jenkins too. Like, I don't know, I picked up on a lot just from going to festivals throughout the years, and like I really tend to blend my environments, I think.
Yeah, I think you've told me some stories about working in like the festival scene in general. Like you've done some work for festivals. I'm not sure exactly what it was that you told me.
So yeah, I mean, I've been doing volunteer work at Harmony Park forever.
Sure.
Doing stage setup, tear down. I also used to do music bookings and ran a little production agency here in Mankato a long time ago. And so I've always done bookings and stuff. So I've been in the music industry forever, I guess. Just not in it.
Sure. Well, I mean, that certainly is where a lot of the work happens. But the next question is kind of obviously, what's it like to move from one side of that to the other, you know?
It's a hard transition. And it's becoming like realizing that you got to become an actual performer. And it's not just about you getting up there and singing your songs. It's about you putting on a performance. Mm-hmm. And that's the weirdest transition I'm going in right now, is like understanding and how to make it a performance.
What is your aspiration in that way? Like if you were to put forward the best stage show that Chris K could do, what would that look like?
Oh, that's in the process, I guess. I mean, like the best I can do for me right now without a band is, like I said, I bought those vintage suitcase travel trunks. They're hard shells, and like just get some percussion going and just having more fun with it, I guess, instead of being so just in my emotions on a stool.
Sure.
Be in the emotions on a stool with suitcases.
With suitcases.
Yes. I like that energy.
And then I can even pack my gear in them, hopefully.
Yeah. Cool.
So you're building a suitcase drum is what I gather
Yes,
from that.
I have 3 suitcases right now, so I'm building 3 of them.
Oh, okay. So like is it like kind of like those like stomp block kind of things where you put a microphone in it, or is it a drum like what
I
is
mean,
suitcase
I
drum
can't mic
design
it up.
like?
It's literally basically like a bass pedal drum. So you'll take an actual bass pedal and hook it up, or you can make a stand where you slide the suitcases in.
So do you cut a drum head into
It
it?
depends on how it sounds yet, but yeah, I'll probably end up cutting a drum head and maybe some ports.
A port on the front would be really nice for miking if you aren't going to mount one.
Yep.
I wonder if you rig like contact mics up in there, or maybe put a
What I would
box
do,
mic or something.
yeah, I would put like one of those conference mics that we have, but a nicer version of that. And and then a porthole would be great for
Right.
just getting that release. Otherwise, you'll just have attack. You'll just have the
Yep. Want
Yeah,
some reverb
interesting.
in there.
I've always seen those stomp blocks. They have them next to the pedals in the music stores, where it's like just a piezo mic in there with like embedded in a piece of wood, and you stomp on it, and it sounds kind of like a drum, I guess.
Really?
Mike Munson has a really cool one where it just works through contact, and it's like 2 bars with like 3 pieces of wood with a little metal slab on it, and whenever you make contact with it, you get a nice sound, and it has a little tone dial on it. It's pretty cool. Mike Munson's awesome if you guys haven't seen him.
Is it like a snare or kick sound?
Kick sound.
Interesting.
Yeah, so like I have a really small one too that I want to kind of make like a snare sound, and then 2 bigger ones.
Nice. I'm not a drummer, but I've been seeing more drum kits as I explore music, and like I always like it when somebody's got like weird stuff going on with their kit.
Right.
I actually have seen some really well executed like suitcase boxes, or somebody. Bink Beats used a weird kick drum. I don't even remember what it was. It might have been like a cardboard box or something.
Pretty sure Street Fighting Man was done on a suitcase drum kit, like a toy suitcase drum kit from Japan. That drum intro on that Rolling Stones song.
Now you're making me think of Coco Rosie. They always use child toys.
This guy on TikTok did this really cool one where he used a small metal like cup that was off balance on his snare, I think, and it
Yeah.
had a little bit of water in it.
Yeah, he does a bunch of stuff.
That's really cool.
Have you seen the one
Yeah,
where
It's very Blue Man groupie.
he like swings a
Uses the
condenser
air.
mic
Yeah.
around, and then will like play around, and it makes this like cool like Leslie effect. It's really
yeah.
cool.
He like played with the drum mics too.
Yeah, that one's like literally SM57s as
like-
drumsticks.
It worked. It sounded kind of weird.
It was cool. It was a cool sound. It'd be cool for like the intro of a song or something like that.
It's good like destructive testing for those mics too.
I'm guessing you've heard of Shaky Graves, Chris.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he was probably the first guy I saw like executing that, and he does them backwards, doesn't he?
I think so. Yeah.
He's like heel down instead of toe down, which honestly sounds
That
like it'd
makes
be
sense.
especially for like leaning back on your
I mean, that's
heels
how you
the
learn to
whole time.
march.
Yeah, exactly. It feels like you'd
Oh
be
man,
on the
he's got
balls
it
of your
figured
feet.
out.
Yeah, I think he has a band now though.
He still does it. I saw him at First Ave, and it was like he used the suitcase drum a few times, and it, like people went wild for it.
Yeah, I was
See,
supposed to
that's
go to
what I'm
that
hoping
show.
for.
That was in like 2019.
And then if he has a full band too, then when you get to that potential, it's like you can present 2 options and people are trying to book you. And
Yeah.
like, what's your budget? Oh, you can't afford the full band? Well, I can come do this.
Yeah, I prefer Shaky with his just like him and like a honeytone amp in a suitcase. That's my favorite version.
That's kind of like what I thought I was getting into, and when I got to the show, it was not what I had anticipated
Yeah.
whatsoever. So I was like, "This is all right," but you know, I liked it better when he was stomping on the old suitcase thing. I guess I was in the crowd goes wild section.
And that's so funny because I never even thought of Shaky Graves in his suitcase. I thought I was stealing it from Ian, my friend. He's in Shrimp Vision in Appleton, Wisconsin. Hi, Ian.
Okay.
And Ben.
It's cool. Yeah, like or people even like put a wallet on there probably for dampening, or like put their keys on the drum, and like or like
little
I've seen people
tampering
like
action.
loop stuff onto their cymbals, so you've got like the cymbal, but there's also like somebody's earrings on there or something that like
Yeah.
rattle differently.
I'll have to come show you boys once I
cool.
get one set up.
Meinl makes all sorts of cool like jingly things that you're meant to put on your drums and all sorts of stuff. There's a guy named JD Beck who also has kind of started a thing where you put little cymbals on like all your drums. And like you can either hit the cymbal or the drum, or you can like lift the cymbal up and make cool sounds.
Is it just free floating on there?
Yeah, it's like literally just sitting on there. He's a weird guy. He's his own thing for sure.
Interesting.
I think that's where TikTok really helps, because you get like, or a reel or something, you get like 40 seconds. And sometimes that's about as much of that as I want, but I'm really into it. Like, like if you gave me like an hour of it, I'd be like, all right.
I wanted to talk because I kind of have seen the whole evolution, kind of even your first shows. I actually don't know. Have you always had a guitar? When do you, like, I've owned a guitar my whole life, but I tell people I've been playing guitar for probably about 4 or 5 years now. When would you say you started with, like, actually, like, I'm going to write songs and try to book shows?
It was literally about 3.5 years ago. So I cranked that album out. Like I started the playing guitar a little bit more heavy late that summer, and then that fall I've cranked the whole thing out.
Have you kind of always just like had a guitar?
Yes and no, I guess. Growing up I had one, but I never really played it. Mm-hmm. And then throughout high school I had one, but it's in my guitar graveyard, so it never played quite right, and I don't know, I would dick around on it twice a year or so. So I'd never really got into playing until about 3.5 years ago.
You came into your artist project then as more of a fan of music, and then like wanted to join the artist side. Cool.
And it wasn't even one about joining the artist side, it was about therapy in a sense for me, because music is therapy in a sense, and it was about me releasing emotions is what it really started out of as.
Well, I would imagine that was a helpful processing mechanism over the course of the last couple of years, especially. It's certainly been interesting.
Definitely think it's saved my life at this point, to be honest with you.
Is those songs living forward part of that same process for you, or are they going to get like, do you have new stuff that you have to write, or do you want to play that out? Like, is how they live in the public important to you?
Not so much. Like, I guess that's about art. Once you put it out there, it's up for interpretation. So how people interpret it, what doesn't really bother me. It's like, it's about art for me, I guess.
Sure.
It sounds selfish, but it is.
Well, I think that's probably a healthy way. Like, I mean, obviously, like, artists want to live, and like, you want like it to turn around into something that you can do if that's how you want to make your living. But I don't think it's selfish to just do art for your own,
right,
your own personal makings. I think that's actually a good way to do art.
Especially for if you want genuine fans. Like if you want fans who actually want what you have to offer. Also, my camera died.
Oof. All right, why don't we do plugs? Why don't we do some shout outs for Chris, and we can wrap it up here.
Right on.
So let us know, and let the whole crew know where they can find you, if there's any upcoming events or places you would like to direct people, and then any shout outs you want to drop.
So there is Chris K Music on Facebook. I am in the process of creating a different stage name, so look on that page for that. There you can find some old weird music videos and shit on there, honestly. And then besides that, I mean, if you can find my SoundCloud, go for it. Honestly, shout out to the Appleton, Wisconsin crew. You guys have really pushed me to keep performing and doing a lot, so I appreciate you guys.
And this upcoming album is, you're thinking winter?
Winter, I'm hoping for December, late December.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on and playing us some tunes and letting us know how it's been and what you're up to.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate it.
Thanks. Yeah, good luck with the recording process.